But Arsenal did win like champions today. Arsenal did win like champions, and I can already see comments. I can already see anger. I can already see frustration from rivals saying, oh, you'll be saying that's embarrassing, mate. You're not even an Arsenal fan. How can you say they won like champions? I will see people say it's insane. You can't say this. This is ridiculous. No, it isn't. Arsenal's 3 of the last 4 games against Fulham have ended with draws and defeats. Fulham have been a thorn in their side, and you could actually see an element of, you can see a large element really of nervousness coming from Arsenal. For large parts of this game, you could see it and you could feel it. And Fulham, they knew this. Fulham didn't try to win the game. Fulham didn't even try to play football. Fulham, even at 1-0 down, they didn't overcommit in any attack. They didn't, right at the end, 95 minutes were up on the board. Their manager's kicking off with them. Jimenez runs, does very, very well, gets the ball, gets to the edge of the box, looks up. No one's in the box. This Fulham team was so scared of Arsenal, petrified. They sat 11 men behind the ball. It was terrorist football, like to a degree that you rarely see. 11 men behind the ball for large periods of the game, barely any space, 0 press on the ball. And even when they were 1-0 down, what did they register? They barely registered an attempt. They didn't create any clear-cut chances. They didn't gamble. They didn't overcommit. They were so petrified of what Bukayo Saka could do, what Rice and Zubimendi and Eze could do. They couldn't come out and play. If this was a boxing fight, this was Fulham the whole time. This was Fulham for 12 rounds. That's all they did. So when I talk about winning like a champion, something that Arsenal have struggled with, something that Arsenal have had issues with, is when teams are that's not even pragmatism. I wouldn't even call it dogmatic. I would call it, they were petrified. I'd describe it as they were petrified. Fulham were petrified of what Arsenal could do to them. So their game plan was, let's sit in and let's try and get a draw. And even if we're losing, let's try and lose by 1 goal. We don't want to lose no 3, 4, 5-0, because that is what would have happened if Fulham would have opened up. Simple and as straightforward as that. 95 minutes in a game, you're losing 1-0 and you're not committing to an attack. That's Arsenal fear. Simple and as straightforward as that. But Arsenal have succumbed to teams like this. Last season, if you look at them 14 odd draws in the league, how many were against teams that just suffocated Arsenal, caught them on the counter, scored from a set piece? And that was the 2 main differences today. Arsenal found a way to score. I think it's beautiful that it's from a set piece, because do you know they're real goals? I don't know if people are aware of this. Set pieces are actually real goals. On top of that, and I think maybe even more importantly, is defensively Arsenal looks so solid compared to last year. They're not getting bypassed in the midfield too often. Teams are counter-attacking, knocking the ball long, running into channels. But even today with Fulham, they had loads of counter-attack opportunities in the first half. But actually go back and look at the shots. What were the shots? Most of them were speculative. I don't actually think, and I'd have to go and check the stats here, I don't think they had a shot on target in the game. No, they didn't. No clear-cut shot, nothing. Defensively, Arsenal have improved since last year. I think Zubimendi plays an important role in that. I think Calafiori, he now seems to be a runner games, solid at left back. Timber, best right back in the league this season. And we already know about the centre-back pairing at the back, rare in goal. Fantastic. And that, Arsenal are a conundrum for teams. Do we attack and get ripped apart? Do we sit back and hope we can catch them on the counter? Teams just don't know. They're stuck. They're stuck and they don't know what to do. And yes, the scoreline wasn't amazing for Arsenal today. This isn't a win that Arsenal were going to bring a DVD out about. This isn't a game that, I don't know about you sometimes. Sometimes if I'm having a drink with my pals and they're around, we go back and watch some extended highlights of some classic games. And depends on which friends are around. We'll put a few Liverpool ones on, a few United ones, a few Gooner ones on if Phil's here. But this won't be one of them. This won't be a game where Phil says, boys, do you mind if I watch the highlights of Arsenal, Fulham, 18th of October 2025. No, most Arsenal games within a year will even forget this match existed. And that's fine and that's normal. But what Arsenal did today I thought was professional. They kept their heads. They didn't allow themselves to become overly emotional when they were struggling to break down Fulham. Again, a Fulham team that were just terrorists to the nth degree. And by the way, if Liverpool won like this, if Chelsea won like this, if City won like this, the mainstream media would be talking about the negative tactics from Fulham. They won't do that with Arsenal. What you'll find the narrative will be is, well, Gyökeres didn't score today, did he? Or did you see Eze? Eze didn't have the greatest of games. I thought he was meant to be the star guy. Well, of course those guys struggled because it was hard to create clear-cut chances. It was hard for Eze in the middle because what they did today, Fulham, is they just absolutely condensed the central areas and stuck 11 men behind the ball. But Arsenal found a way. And this is why you know that the mainstream media are duplicitous. This is how you know the mainstream media don't want to have honest footballing conversations. They want to push their narratives and their agendas. And their agenda is no matter what Arsenal do, we've got to find the negative. And I'm just bored of listening to it because what you actually do is you stop and stifle and suffocate genuine footballing conversations. And finding a way to win these matches is what champions do, or at least what potential champions do. How do I know that? Barring anybody that's about 60 or 70 that watched Liverpool win lots in the 70s and 80s, I'm someone who supports a team that has won more titles than the rest of you put together. I've seen it. These wins are important. My club at its pomp, the amount of times we had to... when I was younger, I used to get annoyed. And I don't know if you do this with your boys. You sit there when you're angry, you start talking a bit of shit. You start talking about rules you'd change in the game. And you think of it in your head thinking, this would make this game. And I used to have this rule where I used to say, teams shouldn't be allowed to have more than 8 players of their own in their own half. And it's just a stupid thing I used to say because I was so annoyed that every fucker sat 11 men behind the ball and it made it hard to break them down. And invariably we found a way to win, but it made me angry in the game. And that is what I'm noticing with this Arsenal team. The fear that you install into your opponents, the respect they have for you is palpable. Absolutely palpable. There is nothing wrong with winning this way. It's not as though you're going to sneak a 1-0 like this every single week. You're not going to. You know, you're still one of the highest goal scorers in the league. Your defensive record is absolutely brilliant. And I think up against a team that you've dropped a lot of points against in recent years, you should be very, very proud of this win. There's no doubt about it. Now, I want to talk on Saka, right? I want to talk on Saka because a lot of rivals were talking about, is he going to be the same guy after the hamstring injury? And I think there were a few times where you looked at him last season when he returned and thought, looks a little sluggish, looks a little bit unsure if he can sprint. I noticed it a lot in the international break, and we saw it again today. Bukayo Saka is back to his absolute best. The man is just phenomenal. Some of his touches, some of his runs today, some of his abilities to find a teammate in really close spaces was just amazing. Genuinely amazing. And I know it was gutting because actually Noni started quite well for Arsenal, and having him available is a really good string to your bow. But it looks like you're getting the very best Bukayo Saka back. And I think whenever there's a bad injury to any player, there is always that worry in the back of your mind of, is he going to be the same? Is he going to have the explosiveness? Can he still beat a man? Does he have that half a yard of pace to beat somebody after a great bit of skill? And Saka looked fantastic today. There was that one great run that he had where he almost sets up a chance where he beats 2 or 3 men in the box in the second half. But it was also the first touch to get the ball away from Sessegnon and then to beat him. It was just brilliant watching him play. It was an honour to watch Bukayo Saka perform to that level today. And I wanted to give him a shout out because I think that he received so much criticism from rivals. Everybody praying for his downfall, begging and hoping that things go wrong for him. And I never quite understand that from English people because he's one of ours as well. He's an Englishman. He's an English lad, and he plays for our national team. And I don't know why people want one of our greatest talents to fall off. I get it for your club, but I care about my nation as well. Maybe those individuals don't, and that would make a lot of sense. But I thought he was fantastic today. But overall, look, this isn't a classic. There won't be T-shirts made. It won't be remembered in many, many years to come. But imperative that you won it. A team that have hurt you in recent years. You go into the next league game now against Crystal Palace, at home, win that, and then it's 2 promoted teams back to back, you have a genuine chance of winning these 4 games in a row in between these 2 international breaks. Will City win all their games? Will Chelsea win all their games? Will Liverpool win all their games? Look, that remains to be seen. But very, very winnable from this point for Arsenal. I know Palace are next, but I just think Arsenal at home, it's going to be no problem in my personal and in my humble opinion. But I want to get your views. I want to get your thoughts in the comment section below. But the fear people have for Arsenal right now is absolutely crazy.